my gosh, hold on. Yes. Finally back in the studio, and this is a special podcast recording for those that think that you're just getting the same stuff. I can watch you on YouTube. I can listen to you on YouTube. Well, no, you get special episodes like this one about this Katt Williams and Shannon Sharpe interview that he did for a club. Shay Shay. Wait. I will never understand the name of his podcast, but whatever. I've seen a couple of different interviews with Shannon Sharpe, and he's become the new Carisha Please. That's what the big debate is on social media right now. They said Shannon Sharpe is the male version of Carisha Please. I never really watched Carisha Please chapter and verse to know anything about it. I do know that she is chiming in on social media, and she says she's mad about you guys talking about how Carisha Please and blah, 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 blah. But a lot of you said that for those of you that have watched it, that said that you like Carisha Please. I don't find Carisha or Young Miami that interesting or that entertaining. I've seen clips, I've seen things, but I kind of find her blah. But look, to each their own. But there is a lot of conversation this week after this Katt Williams interview with Shannon Sharpe. People are comparing Shannon Sharpe to Carisha Please in that podcast. And a lot of you had feelings saying that why did she win at the BET Awards for Best Podcast when there's so many amazing podcasts out there, including our own? We weren't nominated. Oh, damn. It's fine. This is why I say it's important for you guys to spread the word. This is why I say it's important for you guys to give us a 5-star rating on the Apple Podcast and on Spotify. And shout out to those of you that have been giving us glowing reviews and 5-star ratings. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you guys. We've seen an uptick in regards to our ratings for the podcast, Kempire, on your favorite podcast platforms. But this is a special episode because on a long flight, I made sure I downloaded this interview with Shannon Sharpe and comedian Katt Williams, which is nearly 3 hours. And can you believe it? At the time of this recording, 13 million views. Woo! And look, you can have conversations on Katt Williams. People love him. This is why, he's still very much relevant. And some people might say, well, it's only reason why it has that many views is because of all the people that got strays from this interview. So there's a lot to unpack. We are not going to go through every nitty gritty moment of this interview, but shout out to our friends over at Complex. They have put together all the people that Katt Williams came for in his interview. And I want to share my thoughts and my initial reactions to this. One of the things that stood out to me in this interview was how he started off the interview. And I love all the memes and the jokes. People said, Shannon Sharpe started like, hello, how are you? And Katt Williams came in like, Steve Harvey's trash, The Entertainer's trash, and this one and that. The internet will never be defeated, okay? But so will not Katt Williams. And I never really had to cover Katt Williams over the years, but I'm being reminded now that he's back in the news, all the things that he's, happened, both good things that he's done for other comedians and putting other comedians on. I see a lot of people are now weighing in. Some comedians that you don't even know, talking about how he took me on tour. He paid me 5 times how much I was supposed to get paid. There are countless stories, especially for Black female comedians that he has taken on tour with him. But Katt Williams in this Club Shay Shay interview was really gunning for everyone. And he clearly watched some of the interviews that Shannon Sharpe did with some of the people that he's talking about, including Rickey Smiley. Here's my initial reaction to the interview. Some of the things do I take everything that Katt Williams said in this interview as fact and as truth? No. But I also have to be reminded, and I have to remind our audience, he's a comedian. So some of the things a comedian will say, although it sounds like they're saying it seriously, it's really a joke. And do I think some of his jokes went too far? Yeah, there were a couple of moments that I cringed. I was like, oof. Especially because Rickey Smiley is saying that his family is reacting to Katt Williams talking about his son that recently passed away. This is where it goes a little too far. But at the top of this interview, Elephant Brain's working. Bet you thought I forgot. But at the top of this interview, he says, now is the age of truth. And I really believe what he's saying right now is so true, because I'm sure you've seen all of the stuff that's been coming out ever since the pandemic. But more recently, in the last couple of years, we're seeing politicians, entertainers be exposed for years and years of alleged abuse. So when he said this is the age of truth, the age of honesty, I was like, perfect timing, because not only did we get this Katt Williams interview, we also got the Epstein list that came out. You know, John Epstein. Was it John Epstein? I don't remember his first name. It doesn't matter. Epstein, you know who I'm talking about. So people have been waiting to see, because there have been all kinds of rumors. There have been fake lists out there, including one that included, Jimmy Kimmel, and Whoopi Goldberg. Whoopi Goldberg had to weigh in on The View, deny that she was ever on Epstein's island. Also, she denied that there was any sort of fight between her and Oprah behind the scenes on The View. You may have seen that story a few weeks ago before the holidays started. Because, you know, shout out to The Color Purple. They were #1 movie in the box office the first weekend during the holidays. I have not seen it yet. I was away. I can't go see The Color Purple in Japan. I probably could have, but it probably would have been in Japanese. I don't even know if it was playing there. I didn't see any advertisements for it. But if I could have, I would have. However, I will, hopefully this weekend, if not during the week next week. It's already Friday. I feel like I already lived Friday. I traveled for like 24 hours to get here, and look at me, jet lagged, up early, recording a podcast for you guys. And don't forget, you will be able to watch this version, the visual version of the podcast, on the Kempire Radio YouTube channel. As you know, we have our live recordings that we post on the podcast, but we also have our special episodes that we will be posting on the Kempire Radio podcast. That's also where you can see some of my past interviews with people like Brandy, Oprah, Camila from 702, and so many other people. Sidebar, shout out to Misha, who recently lost her sister, Irish, who already lost her other sister many years ago, but recently lost her mom and her dad. So prayers to Misha from 702. But back to this. Katt Williams. So this interview, as I said to you before, I feel like when he said this is the age, there were little moments, and this is what makes a genius comedian, is that they're able to give you life advice, but at the same time make it funny, at the same time really kind of go there. Like, he's really good. He's really good. I don't think people give him enough credit for being a really good comedian. And I'm not saying, because everyone has their favorites. You know, some people think this particular comedian is funny. Some people think this one. But there are a lot of you that think Katt Williams is funny. But Katt Williams has had, you know, up and down career, as I said to you before, after seeing this interview, so many other stories. Remember that time when he fought that kid? So, you know, there are many stories, and there are many accusations and allegations that have been put out there about Katt Williams, about being an addict and things like that. He talks about that in the interview as well, and he denies it. He's like, I couldn't be able to do what I do if I was addicted to drugs. And I was like, I mean, valid points. But like I said, do I believe every single thing that Katt Williams said in this Club Shay Shay interview? Do I take it as fact? No. Did he garner attention that people probably did not realize that he would garner? Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen these level of numbers in a long time, especially for YouTube. I mean, 13 million, probably 14 million now in less than 48 hours. Millions of people have watched this interview. And I know what some of you are thinking. Is this going to garner for Katt Williams, you know, that Netflix special? Or, I mean, he's had them already. Or more opportunities. Some people might say yes, but some people might say no. You see how he trashed everyone in the industry, and he talked about how, you know, he didn't give up his booty hole. I'm sorry. Look, come on. How you doing? He didn't do any of that stuff in order to reach a certain level. Well, here's the thing. I don't think that was his intention. I don't think Katt Williams' intention in doing this Club Shay Shay interview with Shannon Sharpe was to garner what his people that he's talking about, like Steve Harvey. He's not trying to get what Steve Harvey has. He said he's funnier than Steve Harvey. He even gave flowers to Bernie Mac and how Steve Harvey tried to, you know, outshine Bernie Mac. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that unpacks in this interview. But I did listen to it. As I was on the plane, I was like, oh, let me listen to this. I was like, let me download this. Because I was like, when I need to prepare myself, because I want to hear this interview, because I saw a lot of your reactions on social media. Some of you have been hitting me up as well. Kempire, I know you're on vacation. I love how you guys start that off. I know you're on vacation, but can you talk about this? You know I'm on vacation, but you still want me to work, even though I've been working this entire vacation. Okay. But here I am, first day back, and you're getting a podcast episode about Katt Williams, his Club Shay Shay interview, and everything that has fallen out from that. Because now, Katt Williams has everyone responding, even Ludacris. Ludacris dropping a verse. He thinks that this is 1990 something, and he's doing a clap back via a diss track. But look, Ludacris, I didn't think anyone expected Ludacris or his wife would catch a stray in this interview. But shout out to our friends Complex. I was looking for a good way to summarize everyone that was mentioned in this Katt Williams interview. So let's just go through this. Shout out to our friends over at Complexes. As you know, here on the channel, what do? We always cite our sources. All right? So they write this. It says, Katt Williams has ruffled some feathers with his extensive interview on Shannon Sharpe's Club Shay Shay podcast. The comedy legend's almost 3-hour-long chat with Sharpe sees him taking aim at countless people across both Hollywood and the music industry. He even talked about Diddy. Whether it's his distrust of Diddy's parties invitations or Cedric The Entertainer allegedly stealing his stand-up material. Sidebar, because of this Katt Williams interview, old footage of Mark Curry. Remember hanging with Mr. Cooper? Mark Curry, who's a comedian, was talking about how Steve Harvey stole his jokes back in an old interview. All right. Katt Williams does mention Mark Curry. Obviously, they clearly are friends, and mentioned Mark Curry in this interview as well. So Complex continues, says, whether it's his distrust of Diddy's party invitations or Cedric the Entertainer allegedly stealing his stand-up material, Williams has plenty to say about those he doesn't like and those who wronged him in the past. So some of those people include Steve Harvey. And look, if you are listening to this, hit me up on Twitter to let me know you listen. This is how I know you guys are listening to the podcast. And weigh in on X at TheKempire. Let me know your thoughts on everyone that Katt Williams came for in this interview. All right? So Williams insinuated that Steve Harvey plagiarized Mark Curry's role as Mark Cooper in Hanging with Mr. Cooper on his series, The Steve Harvey Show. He says this, he told this to Shannon Sharpe. The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had. Now Steve got a sitcom where he's the principal and he wears a suit. And then he gets this high top fade, making all black men think he got the best lineup in the business. And it's a man unit. I wonder if that's true. See, that's the thing. And that's the genius of certain comedians. You're not sure if it's truth, shade, or a joke. But the way that he cut off all his hair and he hasn't grown it back makes me kind of think, was it a unit? Did I miss that story that we found out that he was wearing a unit? It was a good unit, though. That was a good unit. I told you guys I'm going to try one. I make jokes. Look, for those that think that I really want hair, I mean, I wouldn't mind hair. I had hair at one point. But I have a nice bald head. I don't care. And y'all love to call some people Mr. Potato Head. That's exactly what Katt Williams said about Steve Harvey. Y'all love to call me Mr. Potato Head, but I look damn good with my bald head. Some of y'all couldn't cut off your hair. And some of you haven't and probably should. Oh, come on. Just saying. But at least I look good with a bald head. So I'm okay with my bald head. But I wouldn't mind a little something, little something, okay? Look, as I shake my head, you'll see the video, okay? So he says that about Steve Harvey. He said he also asserted that Harvey would never make it as a movie star, which is why he sticks to hosting Family Feud and sitcoms. He even came at Tyler Perry and Rickey Smiley, saying that they could only play women because they could never, really play any other part. They write this, then you ask him, why you not a movie star? And Williams says this. He says, "I didn't want to be a movie star." Williams continued mimicking Harvey. The same Negro that hated on Bernie Mac with his same thing. There are 30,000 new scripts in Hollywood every year. Not one of them asks for a country bumpkin black dude that can't talk good and look like Mr. Potato Head. See, there ain't none. You have to have range. Then they talk about Cedric the Entertainer. And I didn't realize that they were the reason why Cedric the Entertainer, maybe it's because it's been years since we've even thought about why we call Cedric the Entertainer. And it was because he was supposed to be like funny, he was able to sing, perform, that kind of thing. Katt says he can't do any of those things. So the comedian was particularly scathing when it came to Cedric the Entertainer, whom he described as a walrus and plagiarist. Cedric told you when you asked him, did you steal Katt Williams' joke? He said, it don't line up, Williams said. How it don't line up that I did it on TV in 2018. You came to see me at the Comedy Store do it in 2019, then did it on the Kings of Comedy. Okay, so the years of that, they fixed that in the interview because the years of that did not line up. Because Kings of Comedy came way before that. He says, what doesn't line up? This is a televised joke that Mark Curry helped me punch up and get to the level that it was. So they go on to further explain that actual timeline of that later, which I appreciated because that was a little confusing. So Katt Williams, and shout out to our friends Philip Lewis on social media who posted this on as a tweet. He says, 1998, I'm doing this joke. This is Katt Williams speaking. It's on Comic View. Remember Comic View? 2 years later, he's doing that as his last joke, and he's doing it verbatim. He just turned my car into a spaceship. So, of course, social media is digging up the receipts and finding out that Cedric has stolen other jokes, allegedly, I'll just say. So after going on to accuse a comedian of joke theft, he redirected his attention to Steve Harvey before circling back to Cedric. He called him a walrus who isn't multi-talented, failing to live up to the entertainer title. We found out he can't sing, can't dance, and doesn't write jokes, Williams said. He did 4 comedy specials. They're so bad, Shannon, they're not available on Netflix or Tubi. Then he comes for Rickey Smiley. So Williams described radio personality Rickey Smiley as a liar over his claims that he was supposed to play Money Mike in the 2002 film Friday After Next, a role which Williams played. Smiley, meanwhile, played a Santa Claus robber, but he claimed Williams was supposed to take that role instead. He asserted that Smiley, Cedric, and Harvey allied against him. The way that Rickey Smiley kept appearing at all my auditions is because of Steve and said. He would tell anybody that, listen, they got a gang on that side. They know what it is. So when he said that, I was like, I kind of believe him. I kind of believe him that these guys have formed some sort of alliance in the world against Katt. All right. Do I think Katt is innocent? No, I don't think he's innocent. But there's clearly beef between these guys. But I do believe there's some truth to what Katt Williams is saying about these 3. And I know a lot of you old heads, that are big connoisseurs of comedy and are big fans of these guys will like, oh, I love Steve as a comedian, or I hate Steve as a comedian, or I love Cedric the Entertainer. But I have to say, Katt Williams, despite having moments in Hollywood, has been able to maintain his lifestyle and probably more, because I hear he's rich. He's been able to maintain that by being a traveling comedian and having big sold out tours. And after this interview, and as I was mentioning at the top of this, I don't believe that this was to open doors for him. This was for him to make an impact, promote his tour, because now this interview that has nearly 14 million views in less than 48 hours just helped promote his next sold out tour. Because now you know you're going to want to go to the show to see what Katt's going to say about everything else that he said in this interview. So, as you know, we've been talking about Diddy and covering the Cassie story, and since then, so many other stories and old footage of about Diddy and people's relationships with Diddy or interactions with Diddy have been coming out. So, of course, this comes up in the interview. So, at one point, the comedian said he walked away from $50 million offers 4 times throughout his career in order to protect his integrity. which then shifted to him criticizing Diddy, who has been sued by 4 women over allegations of SA, as you know, one including Cassie. Sidebar, he also talked about Harvey Weinstein, how Harvey Weinstein offered to suck his you-know-what in front of his agents and everyone. Okay. So this is something that Katt said in the interview. He says, just to protect my integrity and the virgin hole I was telling you about, right? Because P. Diddy be wanting to party and you got to tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely. This is what he says. Earlier in the interview, he prided himself on getting this far in Hollywood and still having a virgin a-hole and never sucking you know what. All right. He later suggested that Diddy likes to claim ownership over women. When I see people's wives and stuff, I don't even look at them. I don't want to look at nothing. I don't want to have, because I know how blessed I am. If I look at it, I got it. That's how Diddy be feeling. So Diddy wasn't the only one that he talked about. Steve Harvey, Rickey Smiley, Cedric The Entertainer wasn't the only comedian that he talked about. He also talked about Kevin Hart. And a lot of these people have since, and I'm not going to talk about their responses because none of their responses for me have hit the way that Katt Williams hit in this interview. But they all have responded. Ludacris has responded. Kevin Hart has responded. Steve hasn't responded. Rickey Smiley has responded. Kevin Hart. Williams believes Kevin Hart might be an industry plant because of how successful he's been throughout his career. He says, in 15 years in Hollywood, no one in Hollywood has a memory of going to a sold-out Kevin Hart. I guess he meant show. He's already had his deals when he got here. Have we heard of a comedian that came to LA and in his first year in LA had his own sitcom on network television and has had his own movie called Soul Plane that he was leading? I have to say, when he said this, it did stand out to me because I remember Soul Plane when it came out. I was like, who's this Kevin Hart guy? But then it didn't say anything to me until Katt sort of lays it out. And he's like, he was popular and working on the East Coast. Then all of a sudden he comes to the West Coast and now he's the it guy. And I thought after Soul Plane failed, that Kevin Hart wouldn't have much of a future. But I was happy for him because you know what? Look, just because you have one failure doesn't mean that you should stop pursuing your dream. So he says, no, we've never heard of that before. What do you think a plant is? Maybe people don't understand the definition of these words. He said that he hates to come across as a petty individual for picking apart lies, but he wanted to set the record straight. He later added, for a 5-year period, every single movie that Kevin Hart did was a movie that had been on my desk. So as you also know that we've been talking about Jonathan Majors and covering that situation. As you know, Jonathan Majors recently was convicted of 2 of the 4 charges that he was being accused of. I'm hearing that he's getting ready to do a Good Morning America interview. Stay tuned for when that happens. Maybe we will do a special podcast episode about that. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the Kempire YouTube channel, but also the Kempire Radio YouTube channel so you can see the visual version of this particular episode. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And for those that haven't already, I will be live here in New York City in just a couple of weeks, literally 20 days from today. Woo! 20 days from today, we will be having our first live show, Kempire After Dark, at Green Room 42. That's our first show. And then on February 16th in Washington, D.C., the tickets are selling fast. Meet and greets are still available in New York City and in D.C. But as I said to you before, those are going the fastest. So if you've been waiting, like, oh, I've been waiting because it's the holidays, I get it. But I also want you to be there. This is where we're going to have conversations about things like Katt Williams, Jonathan Majors, Real Housewives of Potomac, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. You see that episode this week? That finale? Whoa! Beverly Hills and so much more. Kempire After Dark, the tour is here. More information on both New York City and DC dates are available in the description of the video and in this episode. See you then. All right. So Jonathan Majors, so they actually give us the actual minute They said at the 2-hour, 26-minute point of the interview, Williams was asked for his thoughts on the downfall of Creed 3 actor Jonathan Majors, who has lost a lot of big roles after he was found guilty of assault and harassment in the DV trial. He says, maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I thought, Katt Williams said, anytime that you make it into that position, part of the contract is you do understand whenever if I'm trying to read this because I'm sure it didn't make sense, or maybe the way they wrote this. Anytime that you make it into that position, part of that contract is you do understand whenever they want to take you down, we can. When he said that, I was like, the fact that we're getting all of this information being exposed about Hollywood, not just Black Hollywood, but everyone in Hollywood. What's going on with the Christian Keys situation? We haven't talked about that in a couple of weeks. I did see that Christian Keys came out and said, I didn't clear anyone, because a lot of people thought his liking of a tweet made it seem like he was clearing Tyler Perry. He says, I didn't clear anyone. Ooh. All right. And maybe it's not just one person. All right. So he says, first of all, they went around the world for 2 years straight telling any woman that would listen that this was a good-looking Negro in regards to Jonathan Majors. Since when? When did y'all start liking a big nose, and when did y'all like a little head and a big jaw? Since when? If this ugly N-word is good-looking, then all the N-words is good-looking. Here's the thing. This is where there are moments in the interview I was just like, I can't with this man. Like, I can't. Like, I felt like he went too far and things like that. No, I love the fact that people have embraced and really loved Jonathan Majors before all of this DV situation, embraced the way he looked. Because yes, that's not your typical, Hollywood, this is what it's supposed to look like. But I also don't think that Jonathan Majors is an ugly man. Does he make funny looking faces in certain pictures? Yes, I will give you that. But when I'm looking at this picture of him right now, I'm like, no, this is a good looking man. This is a good looking man. And let's normalize embracing different looks, especially within our Black community. But this is what Katt Williams is saying. He's like, when did this become the good looking? Well, I'm glad that we're evolving. He suggested that Major's DV allegations mean he's been canceled so bad that he won't be even allowed to read a comic book. Get out of here, ugly boy, he added. Oh, Lord. Michael Blackson, who I'm familiar with. I'm not that familiar with Michael Blackson. I know who he is, but I'm not familiar with his work. So when Williams was asked if he's been booed during a stand-up performance, he confirmed that he had been, but shared his belief that some comedians should get booed more, and used Michael Blackson as an example of why. He says, as a comedian, the audience's opinion is the only opinion that matters. Not you, the writer, none of that. I don't think any comedian has ever been booed unnecessarily either. That's supposed to be a learning experience. Most comedians don't get booed enough. I mean, this is how you end up with a Michael Blackson, who's a real African, don't a fake African accent. I guess I don't know. I don't know if they just misquoted him here, but he said, who's a real African, with a fake African accent. I don't know what the exact quote is. I'm not sure if Complex got it wrong here, but if you watch the interview, then you know exactly what he said about Michael Blackson. He continued, he said, this guy is mad at me. All I did was give him the best advice of his life. Remember, he was wearing those dirty dashikis, and I told him he needed to dress to be in the position that he's trying to say that he's in. And if you're the African king of comedy, sir, there's actually comedians in Africa doing comedy. If you're going to say that, you got to go to Africa and get a school, dude. And you got to put in some work. These guys, they take my advice. They change their whole persona, and then they hate me for it. All right. Okay. Then Tyler Perry. So, Tyler Perry, we were just talking about the Christian Key situation, has been in the headlines. They mentioned Tyler Perry here, and he says, when talking about Rickey Smiley, who he said he wouldn't work again unless he played a character wearing a dress, Sharpe asked him why he put something like that in his contract. He said that's where he's a believable actor. Him and Tyler Perry can't play a man to save their life. They play good women, and I believe that the best actor should be in the best role. They continue this. Perry, who played the diverse comedy character Medea in 13 movies, including one animated feature, got a mention later in the interview around the I love that they're giving us the actual minute. 2 hour, 20-minute point. We put too much pressure on Tyler Perry. You know what I mean? He ain't put nobody on. I don't know about if we can say that. The people that have been in his productions, they not famous. All of them could walk through the mall without security. Be you going to be what you going to be, but put your people on. If you're a gay person and you in there, put other gay people on. Put somebody on. Or don't be wondering why people keep saying gatekeepers, because clearly y'all keeping these gates. Here's the thing. I mean, he might have a valid point in regards to who can we say that Tyler Perry has put on in his movies that hasn't already been an established name? Because you can mention people like Taraji. You can mention people like, who else in these movies? There are some people that have already been a name, but I can't say in particular, one particular person, and you guys will remind me in the comment section or hit me up on Twitter. Well, remember this person, remember this person. There are people that have already had somewhat of a name, of course, have been able to work and been able to continue to work and make money because of Tyler, which is great. But has he really made a star besides himself? Not really. But I could be wrong. I just haven't. It's you got to go through the entire catalog of the people that have worked with Tyler Perry. But the only people that I can think of are people that were already established. But I'm sure they also, like Taraji, are grateful because she said he was the first person to pay me my rate. But then Monique said, "Well, did he pay you what you were worth?" Yes, that's your rate, but what did he pay you what you were worth? And I was like, well, points are being made. Points are being made. So those are just some of the people that Katt Williams talked about in this Shannon Sharpe Club Shay Shay interview. And I wanted to talk briefly about it here in a special podcast episode. My first day back, already working. But look, the jet lag was jet lagging. So I said, let me get some work done. But now I'm going to get out of here. I have to watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I have to watch Love and Marriage Huntsville. I have so much stuff to catch up on, but make sure that your notifications are on, that you're listening, watching, so that you don't miss out when we go live to talk about Beverly Hills or a special after show for the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, because I know you have thoughts and opinions, and I have additional thoughts and opinions. So be sure to stay tuned. If you're listening to this, don't forget to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And for more information on the Kempire After Dark live tour, be sure to check out the description of the episode as well. Thank you all for being here. I will see you all in the next one. And let me know your thoughts on this whole Katt Williams situation. I think this was an interesting interview. It was dynamic, and the numbers are numbering. Are you going to go see him on tour? I might just go see him on tour just because I was like, damn, this man is funny, witty, a little problematic in a lot of different ways, but I'm staying tuned. I'm staying tuned. Guys, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.